This is level O, list 6, and this is the day 1 page, and here we're looking at why we use an O for the ut sound. So this has a lot to do with history. So many years ago, about 1500 years ago, you couldn't go to a bookshop and buy a book because there were no shops. So what you would have to do was to go to a monastery and pay a monk to write the book out for you, and it could take 6 months, a whole year, to copy a book out for you. They used to write in running writing, much fancier than what I've done on here, but you can see just by looking at these words how hard it would be for people to read these words with all these up and down strokes in them, and how hard it must have been for the monks to write them. So that monks couldn't even go out and buy paper, they had to make paper, so they'd have to go out into the forest and collect bark and mush it up with some water and put it into a frame to make paper and let it dry out. And otherwise, if people had a lot of money, they'd pay the monks to kill a deer, and they'd skin the deer and wee on the skin of the deer to make the skin nice and soft like the pages of a book. When they'd finished writing all the pages, they would have to sew them together. So then they would have to go back out in the forest and collect different leaves and roots of different colours to boil up to make different coloured inks, because they like to colour in these little spaces in the letters in the words with pictures, tiny pictures. They'd also have to go and collect feathers from swans, so they like the feather of the female swan, which is called a pen. Female swan is called a pen, and so today we still call our writing tool a pen, but it was the quill that the monks would dip into the ink to write on the paper. So they were having great difficulty writing these words with all these up and down strokes too, as well as people who were having difficulty reading them. So being the clever people that they were, the monks decided to change the U to an O in these words where the letters either side of them had a lot of up and down strokes, to make it easier for them to write the books and easier for people to read the books. So when people came to pick up their books, I would tell them that in the words where there were a lot of up and down strokes beside the U for the ut sound, they'd changed the U to an O for that reason. Okay, so let's go through, knowing that, let's go through and highlight the O in all these words that's making the ut sound. So we've got one, front, month, sponge, cover, smother, handsome, welcome, lonesome, and awesome. So, and now we'll just have a quick look at what other things we have in these words. So we're using just the W for the W sound in one. We know there's no air after the W, so there's no H. Front is easy. Month, we've got the TH at the end of it. Sponge, because English words can't end in J, we use GE at the end of a word for the J sound, the soft G sound. We've got the ER on the end. Smother, we've got the We've also got the TH in there as well. Handsome, nothing special in that one. Welcome. If you're using well as a prefix, you're going to drop one L on that before you join the two words together. Lonesome, got a long O sound there. And awesome, you've got that AW or sound there. Okay, let's have a look at what these words mean before we write them. So one means that you've come first, you're the winner, you've won the prize. Front means at the front of something. The opposite would be at the back or behind something. So front means the forerunner. Month is, we have 12 months in a year and they're divided up into days. And so usually we have 30 or 31 days in a month except for February. Sponge is a material that we can use to wash with. Cover is the outside part of a book which protects the inside of it. You could have a cover for all sorts of things to protect them. Smother means to stop the airflow of something. So if you smother a fire, because you're stopping the air from flowing through that space, the fire will go out. Handsome means someone who looks very nice and polished. Welcome means where you're greeting someone, you're making them feel happy to be where they are. Lonesome means they're alone, there's only one of them, and they're feeling very lonely. Awesome means that you feel fantastic or something is fantastic. And that's become quite a common word today. Okay, let's go back and read the words, sound the words and spell the words. So we've got one, w-u-n. So remember we're using the O for that up sound, so we go W-O-N, 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 as opposed to the number one, which is spelled like that. So let's write it, W-O-N. So you can see here where we had a W near the U, it looked, or some of these ones, it looked like a triple W there. So quite a difficult one to read, cover, with that 3 cups there. Okay, one, so we do link into the W, 1 cup, 2 cups, smile to the O, over you go, back around, handle to the N and a hill. So link, cup, cup, smile, over for the O, back around, handle to the end, hill, tick off. This is level O, list 6, and we're doing the day 2, and we're revising here the O, making an up sound. So we know from the lazy monks who found it very difficult to write with the letter U for the up sound, because of all the up and down strokes, it was very difficult to write these words with a quill. And then people buying the books from the monks found them very difficult to read because of all the up and down strokes. So the monks decided to change the U into an O in words where there are a lot of up and down strokes in the word. So that's why we have an O rather than a U in one, front, month, sponge, cover, smother, handsome, welcome, lonesome, and awesome. So we've got some other things happening in these words as well. In one, you know to just use the W. If you say it one, there's no air after the W, so you know there's no H. Front is quite easy. Month, you've got the TH on the end. Sponge, you've got the GE on the end, making that J sound, that soft sound for G. The on cover, you may give it a schwat sound, but you must know to write ER on the end, same as in smother. And smother, you've also got the TH happening in there. So you've got 2 sounds that we're revising. If I go into revising, handsome, nothing really in there. Welcome. Now just remember, when we join well as a prefix to a base word, we're dropping one of the L's. Lonesome, O is a long vowel sound, so that E is making it make a long vowel sound, and or we've got the AW in there. So or, the only reason the or is on the end here is to show most English words have 3 or more letters, so they put the E on the end to make or, change it from a phonogram into a 3-letter word. Okay, let's have a look at reading, sounding, and spelling these words and writing them. So we've got one, W-U-N, W-O-N. Cover the word before you write it. So you do your link into the W, cup, cup, over for the O, back around, handle for the N, hill, tick off. You can write the rest of those in a moment. First of all, we're going to go through and have a look at what else you have to do on the page. We've got write a list word that means to hide, shelter or enclose, to suffocate or stifle, to be alone. 12 of these make a year. The part facing forward, good looking, a cake, greet, marvellous and victorious. So some hard words in there for you to read, but hopefully it'll be a bit easier now. So one means to be the winner or to be victorious. Front means ahead or the part facing forward. Month is, we have 12 months of the year, so it's just the word that we use to represent them. Sponge is a porous material. It's quite often made, it's a synthetic material now, but originally it was from a creature from the sea. A sponge can also be a very light cake. Cover means to cover something over so you can't see it, so to hide something. Smother is where you cover something so that the airflow is stopped. Handsome means someone is good looking. Welcome means where you feel that your presence is appreciated and other people may make you feel welcome. Lonesome is when you're on your own, and awesome means you are amazing. Okay, fill the gap with the list word and write the sentence. So you've got to work out which of these words best fits that sentence and then write the whole sentence again. Great chance for you to practice your running writing. Synonyms are words that mean the same, so you've got to find the word that means the same as Greek, camouflage and excellent from these 10 words at the top. Complete these sayings. The police thought there had been a something up. I haven't seen you in a something of Sundays. Don't wear out your something. So once you've finished those sayings, just discuss them in your group so you know what they mean. So when you read them in a book, in a story of some sort, you know what the author is trying to convey. This is level O, list 6, and we're doing the day 3 page. And in all of these words, we're using the O for the up sound. These are all lazy monk words. So the monks changed the U to an O to make it easier for them to write these words in their very fancy running writing, and it also made it easier for readers to be able to read their very elaborate running writing. So we've got one, front, month, sponge, cover, smother, handsome, welcome, lonesome, awesome. So you know you're using just the W for the word in one because there's no air after the W if you say that word. Front is easy, month you've got the TH at the end, sponge you've got the E making the G make its sound, its soft sound. Cover, you've got the at the end. Just remember it is ER for that schwat sound, same as in smother. And smother you've also got the TH making the th sound too. So you've got a couple of things in there. Handsome, welcome. Now when you're adding well to a base word, just remember to drop one of the L's. It's only got one L in it. Lonesome, so you've got the E making that O make a long sound, and awesome, you've got the AW there for the OR sound. Now the only reason that E is on the end of OR is because English words typically have 3 or more letters, and when they were working out how to spell OR, they thought that if they just left it as AW, people would think it was just a phonogram and not a word. So they added the E as an extra letter to make sure that people knew it was a word and to identify it as a word, not a phonogram. So let's go back and read those words, spell the words and write them. So we've got one, W-O-N. So we're going to write that. So you do your up, stroke to the W and 2 cups, smile to your O, and you've got to go over like a wave crashing, and before it does you come back again, handle to the N, hill, tick off. Now the reason we read the words, sound the words and spell them is because you have to identify, especially in these words, that you're using an O for the up sound. You can't just sound these words, you've also got to spell them to identify how you're going to spell that sound in the words that you're writing. Okay, antonyms here, you know that antonyms mean the opposite, so you've got to find a list word that means, this one says uncover, so we've got to find a word that means the opposite to uncover. Combine with the list word, you're looking at common word pairs here, a word that would go with door, pool and cake. Plurals, generally when we form a plural noun, we're adding an S, so sponge is, you're hearing the is at the end, so you know that's going to be an ES. The E is already there, so you only need to add the S. Say these words and write the base word, so that's quite easy. Just take off the prefixes and suffixes to write the base word. Homophones, you've got to define the homophone and then fill in the sentence with the correct use of the word in the right position. Once again, we've got some alphabetical order, so you have to say the alphabet, find words that match that letter as you go, and there isn't a word for every letter, so you just skip those letters. And if you have two words starting with the same letter, you have to look at the second letter of the word. This is level O, list 6, and we're doing the day 4 page, and it's about verb families, plurals and adverbs. So we've got verb families, plurals and adverbs down here. So you've done a lot of verb families and you should know the structure of this table. So here we're writing the base word. Here we're adding the S or the ES. Here we're adding the ing. And don't forget, sometimes you've got to take away the E before you add the ing. If it's already an and down here we've got, if you've got a short word with short vowel sound that ends in one consonant and you're adding a vowel suffix, you've got to know to double that letter in the middle. But if there's a long vowel, which a lot of these have, you don't double that letter. So you know that process, you've done it a lot, so just be aware if you're doubling the last consonant or not there. Here, to show past tense, we're usually adding ED to the end of a word. So ED at the end of a word can make a D sound like closed, it can make a T sound like past, and it can make a ud sound like counted, but you know you're writing ED. If the E's already there, you only have to add the D. Now down here with the plurals, we have some rules here. Usually you're adding S or ES. If you hear S at the end of a word for the plural form, you know you just write an S. If you hear is at the end of a word, you know you have to write es. Now if a word ends in O, just a single O, you have to add es after it. You've got to have two vowels before the s, after the consonant before the s. So tomato, there's consonant, then there's one vowel. You have to have two vowels before the s, so that means you're going to add the es. Now there are some other rules here too. So if you have a vowel before a Y, we do quite often, if we have a consonant before a Y, we change a Y to an I before we add the ES. But if there's a vowel before the Y, don't change it. You've got to leave that vowel and that Y in there. We do have some irregular nouns too, so we don't say, we could say I have an itchy foot or I have 2 foots. No, we don't say foots. So this is an irregular noun, plural noun, and you're going to have to work out what is the plural form of foot. The other one we have is sheep. Some words we don't even change at all. So you might have a box full of popcorn, you don't have a box full of popcorns. There is one sheep, there is a whole paddock full of sheep. So sheep is both the singular and plural form of that word. The rest of that should be quite easy, I think. Now down here you're going to change these words to adverbs, and we did that previously where we discussed that when we add ly to a word, to a base word, we're quite often changing that word to an adverb. And an adverb describes, it adds information about the verb. So we go from glad to gladly, happy to happily. Now if there is a Y at the end of a word and before the Y there's a consonant, you have to change that Y to an I before you add the ly. We've put the little alert there for you. You can't just say happily, that's not a word, it's got to be happily. So you've got to change that Y to the I before you add the ly. So think very carefully and discuss anything you're having difficulty with within your group.